I'm pretty sure I've met everyone. So obviously John Sloman from Hall Chadwick here in Brisbane. I have Les and Russell here. So Les is here in his capacity as the chairman and founder of Ride West, and Russell's here in his capacity as the chairman of the Queensland branch of the Flying Doctors. Both these two have actually a very similar background stage of life. Les is now a retired lawyer that started practicing in Bundy, practiced out in Longreach and ended up in Brisbane. And Russell was a long-time director of BDO. So it's nice to have you here. Also I'd like to acknowledge Shelley and Patria. So Les and Shelley were the founders of Ride West, and this is really their baby that we have endeavoured to carry on in the spirit of how it was set up. And then I have Patria here, so very similar to Les, where the figureheads, the actual work is done. So Patria is now the day-to-day operational heart and soul behind Ride West. So today what we want to do is try and give you a bit of an insight in Ride West from the point of view of the establishment of it, what it means to Flying Doctors, and then I'll try and give you a picture of what it means to Hall Chadwick, Queensland. So over to you first, Les. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Well, 2009 is when it first began. Shelley and I relocated to Brisbane from Bundaberg for a new challenge, and I picked up some clients in Longreach from a retired lawyer out there, and I was sort of keen to add some graziers and all that to my list. So I used to get out there a fair bit, and one trip out there, the local Flying Doctor approached me to see if I wanted to do a sort of a field day trip out to a place called Julia Creek, some 450k, further away than Longreach. And I then sort of learnt that the RFDS had an on-the-ground primary care role for mental well-being, driven by the need to do something about the suicide rate in the west and in the remote Queensland. It would be the same from other states, I'm sure, that is sometimes sort of 3 times more than the suicide rate of their counterparts on the coast. So I learnt that these field trips get out there and they go to one grazier's property, and people come from around, and they have hairdressers, they have financial planners, legal, anything and everything to try and bring some to the gathering. And then over a beer and a barbecue at night time, the issue of coping and doing something about it would come up, and the program would be sort of wheeled out to try and get these mostly male graziers who just can't pick up the phone and tell their doctor that they're not feeling so good or thinking suicidal thoughts, etc. So it was an initiative that I'd learned about, and so moving on a couple of weeks later, I was driving back from Bundaberg to Brisbane and listening to ABC radio, and I heard about this bloke he was in Gympie, and he was riding a push bike on his own from Melbourne to Cairns for awareness for men's mental health. The simple message was to males: put up your hand, talk to your GP, tell them you're not coping, do something about it. And he was creating a lot of awareness, and his story was that he was from Melbourne, had mental problems, lost his job, lost his friends, lost his wife, lost his family, considered himself a full-time loser. He even failed 3 suicide attempts. And then he jumped on his bike and said, bugger this, I'll ride to Cairns and see if I can help some other people. So for me, I thought, well, I just learned about the problem in Longreach and sort of started joining up the dots. Sort of what if I sort of harvested some of my commercial contacts and raised some dough and give it to the Flying Doctor for their program, and maybe why don't we ride a bike from Brisbane to Longreach? So I was sort of half carrying a hangover from a corporate golf day the day before, actually. I sort of trying to amuse myself to keep driving. So I shared the idea with Shelley because I knew to need a lot of support, and I often have these brilliant ideas that don't actually see the light of day because they get... Anyway, I said, what do you think we do this? And surprisingly, she said, yeah, but she's fessed up later saying she said that just to humour me, not thinking that I'd ever jump on the bike, and that the heavy load of handling all the resources and logistics would actually fall to her. So I spoke to my son Damien, and a mate of mine was a banker. He was down in Melbourne, Brendan Wright, and the two of them said, yep, that'd help Brendan actually really helped. He got 40 grand from NAB, and they come aboard as major sponsor. So we were off and running. So that slide up there is probably just a bit of a graphic as to what drives people to despair out in the bush. They're like, that wasn't the case in 210, but from about 212, Longreach and that whole area was in drought for about 6 or 7 years, and so to wake up to that every day and sort of kind of get on with your life, people do need help, don't they? So it was something that we then started. We ended up we had 33 riders, 5 ladies, and had my retired medico, dug him out of retirement and got him to come along. We had mechanics, and Lindsay Australia lent us a truck and a driver with refrigerated. So we took all our stores with us. It was fairly remote, still out there. And certainly mental health issues wasn't, there was a stigma around it, I guess. And, one of the thoughts I had was awareness. So I've got to go with this. So that's the class of 2010. We're in a paddock somewhere out there. Yeah, had some professional help with regard to what happens on bike tours and what you need to hygiene and nutrition and all the rest of it, and had a long lunch for a long ride to Longreach fundraiser, and went and did it and raised $225,000 in the first year, which we handed over to the Flying Doctor. So here's another slide. No, that's not the one. I don't know where that one is then. Oh, well. Shelley really dealt well with all the logistics for the road, and we had an amazing support team, some of who have been a repeat support team since 2010. They haven't missed a ride. So they I need another. Some of our key goals were of course raising dollars, but awareness was the big thing, I thought, in the early days, and sort of community engagement along the way. So Shelley came up with the idea of getting some BMX bikes, and at a few remote towns, Mitchell, Augathella, and one more, we would meet the school kids at the day's end ride and hand over a couple of bikes which they put in their fleet, and they were aware of what we were doing and the Flying Doctor ride. And this is one, well, I think that's Augathella. We handed over the bikes. They actually used the little bikes in their triathlon through the school fleet. Although one time in Mitchell, there's 2 schools in Mitchell. One was a Catholic school, one was a state, and the school captain, have a little vote of thanks, and the Catholic school boy captain had a vote of thanks, and someone asked him what they were going to do with them. He said, we're going to put one in the school fleet, and the other one we're going to raffle, and the money we get from that, we're going to go across to the coast for our Christmas break. So one of our riders up the back said, what's it with bloody Catholics and raffles, So that's another one with the kids. But we also, wherever we were able to, we used the CWA ladies to do our catering. That's a photo of some of the CWA ladies. That there was creaking tables of food when we finished a ride each day, and these lovely ladies would always charge us $6 a head or something, and then we'd give them a check, and then they'd have a meeting and then get us together before we left and make a donation back to us. So but again, the thought process is there with all these grandmas have got sons and daughters on the land and grandkids, and this awareness of the mental health well-being that the RFDS were running was a way to get to them. Another couple of slides here. That's the feed time, and the ladies handing a check back. The other thing it had to be an awesome ride for the riders, an awesome event. Challenging, but very remote. Nothing quite else like this ride, and to my knowledge, that's our patch out there. And we make everyone feel really special. The team look after them. They do their laundry every night. And they become great ambassadors for the ride. I think there's about 180, John, ridden or so over the years, and some serial repeaters. But we get to play with the trucks, and that's the power of the peloton. A lot of bike riders have never enjoy like riding in a 30 pack, and it's quite powerful and carries somewhat underprepared lazy riders like yours truly. I've worked out the power of that peloton, I'll tell you. But also we had ice baths. We developed that, which is behind that plastic is a watermelon bin. And does he look happy? Craig volunteered. So there's a few Hall Chadwick boys in the background there. That becomes quite an end of the day ceremony after the ride. A few beers and a couple of minutes in the tub, then out and 2 minutes back. But it does solve the cramping problems. But that's, again, a bushy's way of having an ice bath, I guess. Anyway, move on to, we do it every 2 years, so we don't have donor fatigue and team fatigue and just administration fatigue. That seems to be working. So in 2014, I hadn't met John, but I met him at a function, Shine Lawyers, and we were walking back to our offices, late in the afternoon, and we decided we got a bit thirsty, so we had a couple of rum and cokes, and I was telling him about the ride, and I convinced him it was dead flat. Following winds always at that time of the year, all the way. Nothing uphill, beautiful weather, great day, yeah, no problem. So Hall Chadwick, Williams Hall Chadwick, I then was called, sponsored, and John rode, and rode in 14, and actually then rode in 16, and 18, 20, 22. So the next slide, that's John at the first break on the first day of the ride. It's sort of body language is trying to say, I don't know whether I should be here. And then, no, that was, I'm not sure we're there. And the next slide, maybe, that's Damien and I. Might have to go back a bit, they're out of order a bit. But there's a nice, that's day one, half an hour into the first ride that John was on, uphill, raining, and when that storm went through, we had a 40-kilometre-an-hour headwind for 2 days. Go, John. From 16 onwards, there were quite a number of Hall Chadwick riders in the event, and a number of repeaters, including Rob Sendall over here, who's, apart from being an excellent cyclist, is also our ride captain and makes a really difficult job look easy. So thank you, Rob. Amazing job. And I started to see how this event could align with the culture and the principles of Hall Chadwick. And I'd retired, and my old firm had no interest. They were all city kids, and Shelley and I just didn't have the support. So we started to sort of look for a successor in it, and sort of could see Hall Chadwick that could be a good fit. Just as a side, before I get on to that bit, in 2014 and the next ride, we had one ride in 15 between Longreach and Tennant Creek. We hosted a couple of returned soldiers from Afghanistan. They were young officers that had come home with PTSD and weren't fitting in, and I was actually doing some work for the RSL here in Brisbane at the time, and we hosted them as part of their rehab, and they rode with us on 2 rides, and really got some benefit out of the fact that mental awareness was our issue, and felt very comfortable in our company. And one of them, a couple of years after, wrote me a note. He said, the warmth and encouragement that Ride West affords helped me pick up from my very darkest days of an awful depression, and confirmed for me the value of having good people in my life. I keep in touch with him, he's going really well, but he was at the end of his rope, really, Nelly. And even on the ride, there's quite a number of the riders amongst the groups over the years have brought with them their issues in life, and they feel comfortable talking in the group after a few days because of what we're all there for. And cycling kind of does that to you. It makes you feel free in the group if they're all like-minded, and they've had feedback saying that they're happy with that, and being able to share on the road. So where were we at? So in 18 we sort of started to officially hand over to Peter and Patria, and John, who had volunteered to take over Shelley's role as a mine, although John to this day disputes that he ever actually volunteered to do such a thing.
No, you volunteered me in front of 200 people.
There's different ways of doing things. Maybe Monoffrey couldn't refuse, but we are so fortunate that that you've accepted the challenge, because Hall Chadwick have taken Ride West to another level that we couldn't take it to. The social media, a deeper list of corporate sponsors, engagement with a much wider community, and I think for us, Shelley and I, probably the best thing we've got out of Ride West is knowing, at least that succession plan, is knowing that the thing that we started will endure, because it does make a difference, and will continue to do so. So thank you, Hall Chadwick, for being the doers. Thank you. There might have been another. Oh, that's about all of my slides. Yeah. That one's Damien. He does cycle tours over in Italy now with his Melbourne-born wife. Don't know. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. I can get.
Thanks, guys.
I just introduced myself. Hi. It's all right. Russ Apostle, Chair of the Flying Doctors here in Queensland. And so does it make a difference? The answer is a very simple one. Yes. Does the RFDS value the role and relationship with Ride West? Enormously so. We're very honoured to be the beneficiary, and it's something that we want to honour going forward, and we want to say thank you to Hall Chadwick for taking up the mantle to take it forward. It's brilliant what the practice is doing. So yes, many of you know, of course, for our aircraft, and there's the ride that just happened this year, which included the visit for the first time to the Charleville base. So next one, thanks. So the RFDS in Queensland, we reflect the way health is delivered in Australia. We're a federated structure. So all of you know us for the emergency evacuations, the primary health care where we are the doctor in the town, but these days that team includes a psychologist. The inter-hospital transfers where people get transferred from one location to a higher level of care, the dental truck, and a very important part now of our programs is the mental health outreach. And so thanks, John. So Longreach was established back in 2004 as a vehicle-based delivery service for mental health programs. So no aircraft, just people in cars. Quite often they've been unmarked cars so that there's no stigmas attached. And we started off with a very patchy bit of funding, and it was, we kicked it off to deliver the mental health services to the west out of Longreach, and typical of government grants, you get told on the 29th of June that your grant's been renewed. Meanwhile, half your staff have said, well, I don't have a job in 2 days' time, so I've already left or whatever. And that's where Ride West came along and said, what we want to do is to give you the funding so that you have certainty to continue whilst you search for new sources of funds, so that we could say, well, to the staff, stay on because you've got a role, you've got a career, we've got a lease for the premises, we're staying open, and we will continue to deliver it from here, and we'll figure out how to find further funding. We've got some time to do it, and that gave that continuity to do that. Longreach is now certainly well and truly cemented as a key part of the RFDS delivery of mental health services, but the Ride West has then allowed us to do a whole pile of new and exciting things in that space. Thanks. So it certainly gave that certainty for the staff, but it also gave the certainty for the clients, for those that the service was reaching out to, that they would have continuity of person, because that's one of the things that they value, is having the same person as their contact point. So it's something that Ride West underpinned, and it's been truly valuable to the organisation. Thanks. So Ride West 2018, the crew at the set-off, and it coincided just after that the RFDS, we said, well, how can we capture what we're trying to do here? You mentioned the field days. They've been something that's been delivered out of Charleville and each of the bases for a very long time. You go to just a casual location where you talk about health generally, and we said, well, that's what we want to capture, so that's where we set up and used the term Wellbeing Out West, and that is that it's your head to toe, all health in a casual, informal environment, so that you get the patriarch of the property and the matriarch will talk and just say, yeah, I'm having a bit of trouble with this. So it's something that was very special, and it was, I can honestly say, being there as part of that meeting of the board to set up that, it was having just come off joining the cyclists on their 2018 ride that gave the confidence. We knew what was coming out of Ride West that year, gave us the confidence to say, we can do this, we'll deliver it. So, you know, Ride West can say it underpinned our confidence to set up the Wellbeing Out West program. It's something that Ride West can always be proud of. Thanks. So 2020 and 2022, yeah, the road just never stops looking straight ahead of you. That's the bit of road is between Barkey and Longreach. Before they found the Ilfracombe, the well shot, and which is the top, the one up the photo on the top right is the Wellshot Hotel, the classic one. If you've ever been out that way, make sure you make a visit. It's fun. It's a lot of fun there. But yes, the Tree of Knowledge, so it's a very important part of it. Thanks. So our commitment has been that every dollar that comes to us from Ride West is delivered through to the program, to the Wellbeing Out West program, and we've lived that, and we will continue to live that commitment. We're very proud and honoured to be the beneficiary, and we want to be honour that to make it deliver. And the Wellbeing Out West, from our point of view, is a donor-led program. So it doesn't have funding. It is all from our donation dollars, and it allows the RFDS to adapt, be agile and flexible to those communities to deliver the services that those communities need at the time when they need it, not when, unfortunately, by the time you do applications and do all those grants, that it takes ages to get there. So it's a really powerful service, and it's one that we're very proud, and so much of that is underpinned by what Ride West delivers. Thank you. So the last 6 months, the Wellbeing Out West clinicians have travelled to those locations. You're back to your Julia Creek. But you know, it's just a whole pile of various communities around. So when the RFDS goes out and delivers our primary health care, we also have the mental health clinician with them. They all have the same shirt, so that it's just something that's able to be very relaxed. Thank you. So the amazing result for this year's ride, $565,000, is just an amazing effort, and so much of it goes back to the thanks to the support of Hall Chadwick as a practice, the leaders of Hall Chadwick, as John and Petrea, and pulling it together. So many of the partners of Hall Chadwick of actually getting on the bike, pushing and delivering that and making it happen. So, and of course, this year we even had the National Chair come and visit us in Longreach to be there for the finish. So that was something very special. But handing over the check out at Brisbane Airport was blew us all away. So the dollars. Thank you. Next one. It's just there if anyone wants to see it, but the patient consultations that are spread around across the different types of clinics that we do, it just might give you a bit of a guidance as to what the RFDS, how we value that. Thanks, John. So it's an important part, and just being able to be out and deliver these services is something that is just so important. One of the great benefits of the RFDS delivering the service is that those in the bush trust the organisation, they trust the brand, and we live that trust to make sure that we can deliver that, treat with confidentiality and respect those that approach the RFDS and that we go and seek out. So it means that the service, that the mental health services being able to be delivered are that much more powerful. Thanks. So wrapping up, it's the delivery of the. Initially, it started out as ensuring the continuity of delivery of services out of Longreach that underpinned that and drove the future. It's the confidence for us to set up the broader program of the Wellbeing Out West. Right now, we're in employment mode to put a permanently funded person out of Charleville that will be tagged as from the Ride West funds. But it has other significant benefits, and that is that it's really helping with that whole destigmatisation of mental health. Someone can turn up and say, my arm hurts and I can't sleep. And that the more that can happen as just a normal conversation, the better the whole of the community can be. And that's part of the Ride West going out and saying we're riding for mental health is something that is really powerful through all of those communities. And of course, those communities see that where did you start? Southeast Corner, and you're coming out to see us here in the bush. It is really, really powerful. It's special. And that's something very great. And I'll just share with you a final photo of something a little bit different. This is actually at our Bundaberg base. The fellow in the right-hand photo is our senior base pilot, and he rides from Bargara to Bundaberg in his bicycle. Well, it's got 3 wheels. Every day. And he travels at 50k an hour, 50 plus 50k an hour. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that a little for the cyclists in the room. There's many. Thanks, John.
Good on you. Thank you. I might just hop up and walk around, just because I have got no notes. So again, similar to these two, the best way to explain Ride West, I think, is with photos. So unfortunately, you're all getting death by PowerPoint. But I think, as I said, to explain it properly, it's better to show you than tell you. So that's not Longreach. You're right. Okay, so, and I guess the start is, why, how did I end up in Ride West? It was very much a personal decision. I just, it was something I wanted to do. So this whole thing started almost by accident. And there has been no strategy here. There's been no long-term plan. We've just kind of followed our nose a little bit. And what these photos kind of show is, how we've kind of ended up where we've ended up. So that's the crew that came this year. Kel's not here, but that's the rest of us. Doug's wife, Kate, rides, has ridden a couple. And here's some previous. So Tanya was Addie's predecessor, and Bretto, and then Craig and Mick did some earlier rides. So there's been, as Perky just mentioned, there's been a few of us actually do it. And that's us, the last group of us sitting outside. That's a Are You OK statue outside. What's that little town called? Muckadilla. So just a couple of action shots. So talking to you about, the kind of impact or why Hall Chadwick. So as I said, I did the first one just off my butt. Spoke to the guys around it after I got back. You know, there was a lot of interest from some other people, so some of the other guys. So we quickly, you know, got people interested in actually doing the ride. But from a business point of view, why it kind of makes sense is this photo. So obviously Russell just put up the list of all the towns where the wellness out west works, and that's this kind of range of towns here. So what I've put there is those three circles are key client areas of our firm. So most of you know that we do a lot of ag work. Roma, Longreach, Cloncurry are three very important areas of our client base. And the red line is the actual route of Ride West. So you can see it overlaps and makes a lot of sense geographically. We're actually riding past our clients' front gates. So it meshed really, really well with our footprint from a business point of view. Probably the other thing that's big in Queensland and in Brisbane and in that client base that we have is there's a big population of people that live in Brisbane that have connections out here, and we've tapped into that community. So, and a lot of those people are our clients or our associates, or, you know, for example, there's Donnie here from Credstone. And the premise, one of the premises that we speak openly about is we want to take money from that corner and spend it out here. So we don't try and raise money from anywhere past Oakey there. The idea is to get all the money down in the corner and bring it out. So that is almost the business case for why it works for us. So MDH, this is us out the front. MDH is one of Doog's big clients. So that's us outside one of their gates of one of their properties. This shirt, for example, AAM is one of our big clients. This is their work shirt that they've got 600 of their staff wearing. So part of their sponsorship was that they supplied us all with a shirt. So their staff wear this once a week, and we wore this every second day on our ride. So some really cool overlap like that with our clients, where we're getting clients buying in and being part of the event and part of the journey with us. You know, AAM had a couple of riders. Their CFO came, their funds manager came. So you know, so really close connections with our client base. Susie, here's another, you know, kind of typical Brisbane story. Susie's a kind of mix, but Susie's a family friend of my family. So, and Susie used to live here, and so the two rides before, she actually came to our function there and there in Blackhall and Longreach. In the last ride, she's actually moved to here. So when we came through in the last ride, she actually organised a function for us down there. So again, that kind of buy-in connection with clients is how we're really getting some real engagement and value out of this from a business point of view. Similarly, that's one of my clients where we right past the front gate, and on 2 years apart, they've come out and met us out the front. Really good client of Tobes as we're going past Longreach. Roma, that's just outside Roma. This is a pretty typical Ride West event. You know, you're talking to someone and trying to dodge the triple in the background. Tobes at, what's that little town? Malvern, yeah. Again, Les made a big point of the CWA, so that's the hall in Oakey where, you know, again, the CWA ladies come and feed us, and, you know, we pay them for the food and they turn around and donate it back, but the transaction occurs. Yeah, so that's at Condamine, Malvern. So again, like really good engagement with our communities as we're going through. In Roma, we have a function there, and so the top right is Jason Coonan, who's the local NAB manager, who's been a big supporter of this. NAB's been a big supporter of the group. So we have a function in Roma, which is kind of day 3, and have a number of clients come and meet us. And but again, we're not fundraising there. We're not asking them for money. We're just wanting to share the experience and kind of get some business benefit out of it and some exposure. And they want to be involved. They want to come in and see you, and they, you know, and that part of it's growing. So this year we went to Charleville for the first time. So that's actually a very, very cool World War II museum in Charleville, brand new. That's the Mayor of Charleville welcoming us. You know, again, you know, the whole council turned up for the dinner. So again, really good engagement with that local community. Cindy with client or friend outside, yeah, client, yeah. So from a business point of view, you know, it makes a lot of sense. So it's a pretty easy decision. I guess, you know, our involvement is all based on volunteer. Everyone that does anything for Ride West volunteers. There's no one gets paid to do anything. So luckily, you know, Hall Chadwick supported me in being in me taking up this passion of mine. So we are a gold sponsor, but it doesn't cost us any money. It just costs us time and effort. So importantly, for it to work, it's got to have a cause. Russell's touched on giving us a good overview of the cause. Again, I agree that the cause is fundamental to, you know, it having integrity and giving you a purpose for the whole event. So this is, you know, the fundraising, and it kind of shows in a bit of the momentum we're starting to pick up. So, you know, the earlier rides were kind of couple of hundred grand, and then, you know, they've gradually picked up. So they go kind of 200, 340, 430, 560 as fundraising. So we've just ticked over $2 million over those course of those rides. And that kind of graphic, which is the fundraising graphic, kind of feels like the momentum that the thing's building. So again, the comments earlier about, you know, the other states wanting to be part of it, very much open and welcoming and want to explore that, because the thing is kind of building, and we've kind of worked out what the secret sauce is, and happy to share that kind of that IP. Again, that's Dr. Tim, and so he's the actual clinician that drives the Wellness Out West program, and, you know, and Russell's obviously been very clear about the transparency, but from our point of view, we can ring Tim. I see Tim in Longreach, you know, we see Tim around the traps, and so if the money doesn't get there, you know, Tim will tell us. So, you know, we've got a very close relationship with the underlying, you know, people, boots on the ground. Relative or yours, Perky? That.
My daughter's best friend is now a flight nurse in.
Yeah. So, and then, as Russell said, for the first time we went to Charleville, and where there's a base, and so the morning we were there, we did a tour, and the base. What's her?
Well, senior flight nurse,
yeah.
Basically Jo.
Yeah, Jo. Yeah. So she gave us great.
Amazing lady.
Yeah. So you know, so again, as I said, a really close connection with the actual cause. And then the third element of it is, for it to be a successful, you know, event, the ride's actually got to be of value to the people personally doing it. So it's got to be hard. You know, they've got to get that sense of achievement. And, you know, and we put a big effort in trying to make their week the best week that they can possibly have. Everyone that does it pays their own way. So to do the ride, you have to pay $2.5 grand. And then you're obliged to go and fundraise. So you pay, you know, people are jammed into double hotel rooms sharing. So they pay for the right to do it. But once they turn up in the morning, once they get on their bike, they don't touch or want for a thing for a week. So that's the concept, which is the genius that kind of Shelley and Les came up with from day one. So what it does is it produces just a really fun, you know, tight group of people that kind of rally behind a cause. That's a cool photo where you had to be over 100 kilos to be in it. Except Nat. But yeah, just, you know, early morning starts, rough kind of, you know, some dirt road, bit of sass from the support crew. That's humour. But yeah, just trying to give you a feel for it. It's a week where your phone, you know, you're out of range. Your phone, you can't touch your phone. You're kind of fully enveloped in something. You know, the idea is to, you know, you're going to Longreach at 30 k's an hour. Forget the worries of the world. Forget the tax returns you haven't lodged. Forget, you know, the stuff that hasn't happened. Just look around and look around at the sunflowers. You know, good days and bad days weather-wise. But yeah, just as I said, just giving you a kind of feel for the involvement as we go. Spend 8 days going across the state. So as you can tell, it's something, I'm truly passionate about. I would be doing it if Hall Chadwick had nothing to do with it, but, it's just, I'm very, very lucky and fortunate that the world's kind of aligned. So it's become a very big part of my life and my wife's life, but also I think it's an important thing for our firm. It seems to work from a marketing point of view in that segment, that ag segment especially, but we do get a lot of, when I raise money, I just send an email out to my, top 50 clients, and most of them have got nothing to do with ag, and money just flows in. So people do buy in to you just wanting to do something good in the world, that kind of ESG obligation we've all got. So it's a nice positive story that we can share with our communities to show that we're doing something other than trying to make a buck, albeit it helps us make a buck. So that's really kind of all I wanted to touch on. Again, that's probably Ride West in one photo. So thanks very much.
We might have a few questions. I'm going to start. I've been wanting to ask Les this question. Les, I'm not going to be rude, but you're not a spring chicken anymore. And even though you do look pretty fit. But obviously what comes with not being so young anymore is you've had quite a lot of life experiences, and you've been a lawyer and you've done a lot of different things in your life, and I'm sure you've had a lot of achievements. But I was just kind of wondering, in those life experiences, where would you rate Ride West in the things that you've done in your life?
I have done a fair bit of stuff outside the law. I've sort of kind of accidental lawyer, I think. I sort of had a dive charter boat out of Cairns. That was quite a lot of fun, but very unsuccessful. Had a cattle property we used to call the Hi-Ho Pastoral Company, just had a shirt made up like that, and used to do that to annoy some of my grazier mates, or people that didn't know. It was 300 acres of 30 head, so that was a lot of fun. I guess Ride West would have to be it for particularly for Shelley and I, certainly I, of creating something and seeing the results of it, and as I touched on probably in the earlier, seeing it endure. It's so many of these sort of charities or rides lose their way. They become over corporatised. They have teams of staff, and the layer of money that's left over is nothing like what the gross was. So I think you guys are continuing what we did. I don't think there's been a free cup of coffee, certainly ever, on Ride West. Everyone pays their own way. So certainly what it's achieving, and particularly the relationship with the RFDS our role's a bit uncomplicated in terms of we sort of harvest some money and give it to the experts to see it through to its end cause. So we're not biting off too much, but it's a critical part of it. So certainly, would you agree with that, Shelley? Yeah, the role of Petrea and Shelley is really underrated to some extent. The logistic nightmare of 33, whilst they give us their bag and jump on their bike at the start of the day one, there's just so much to organise with feeding and accommodation and the medical side of it, the sore bums and nurses and just managing them. And some people a lot of the riders have trouble coping with being away for that long period of time too. It is arduous, not only the physical side of it, but separating. So that's where the ice bath and the Forex comes in. So certainly Ride West would have been it for sure, and continues, because we can sort of be part of this and see it's alive and well and doing great things. So some of those stats that Russell put out there before, I wasn't up to date with them, but that's amazing.
Thanks.
Okay, so how are other states? Yeah, so the RFDS is a federated structure with a federation office based in Canberra to help us coordinate our relationship with the federal government and also to manage a whole pile of things nationally: insurance, fuel, aircraft purchasing, as to get at the economies of scale. But the Queenslanders, certainly we led out on some of these programs, and certainly around the mental health, the dental truck, have all been Queensland-led initiatives. So we don't have a lot of really big sponsors. We don't have a lot of big donors. You know, like about a quarter of our donation dollars are under $25 so each. So we're blessed with a high proportion of donors. But the Ride West relationship is one that we as an organisation truly value and respect. And I'd also say it's not only his comment about the time for the week away, it's the time preparing, because you don't just suddenly say, oh, next week I'm going to go for a ride. And well, no, Donnie Chandler nearly did just do that, didn't you, mate? but it's the hours, the days of training to be able to do the ride. Around Australia, yes, we deliver other services. If there's someone who said we'd like to be able to support, do something similar in another state, the RFDS does deliver that, and we've got a few programs that we'd love to initiate and deliver around that, particularly that mental health space. So that'd be something that we'd welcome the opportunity to open to discussion.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah. I wonder if John could elaborate on some of the how we ended up in our office, mate. How we got the lease.
Yeah. Is there a photo of Hef?
Yeah, there was one just back of it. Can you go back? There.
So Hef here is one of the tragics, Ride West. He started the same time I did, so he's done 5. Hef actually works for Brookfield, who owns our building. So 2016 I ride, there was Mick and Rob and Doug and a couple of us. I forget who else was there. But we negotiated our lease at 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 of us standing around Hef in the Longreach Motoring kitchen over a bottle of rum. So as I said, it's worked well for our business, this thing. So we got a massive incentive and a lovely, lovely fit out, all from him. So
yeah, relationships and tentacles run deep. And Donnie Chandler sitting up in the back of this room here, and Don now is the director of Crestone, and one of his people is speaking after lunch on global financial markets. And Don has done 2 rides, I think. Is that right? Yeah. Don's done 2 rides, and again, it's just that network, the network of Ride West, which filters out throughout the community. Anybody else got any questions for these 3 gentlemen, or any other questions about Ride West? It's certainly it's a big part of what we do. Even John gets one of these. Les?
Thank you, Andrew.
Absolute honour to have you here, mate.
Great pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. What's on our agenda now? Oh, yeah. Yep. So we've got one more prezzo.